Hello everyone, greeting from Kharkiv. Thank you for invitation me for such important interdisciplinary forum, and I want to pay your attention for problem of epidemic threats of Ecocide. On 24 February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In addition to tens of thousands of deaths and injuries, the escalation of the Russian war in Ukraine has also brought a massive humanitarian crisis that has affected public health. Shelling was the most common weapon type documented, used in 145 out of 162 days of hostilities. Attacks that involved shelling were the deadliest, resulting in near 5,000 fatalities or nearly 90% of all deaths. In addition to the civilian casualties, we identified 32 major hospitals in Ukrainian cities that were attacked during the first months of war. During wartime, infection disease outbreaks are more likely to occur, possibly from delayed or interrupted vaccinations or disruption to clean sources of water, as well as crowded quarters. Botulism outbreak was reported. 23 people were infected and 2 people died. The polio vaccination campaign was stopped in near 1 million patients were diagnosed with COVID-19 during the war, resulting in near 9,000 deaths in Ukraine. Meanwhile, near 7,000 people were also diagnosed with tuberculosis and near 3,500 with HIV/AIDS. Since 24 February 2022, the war in Ukraine has caused untold human suffering. It has also brought unprecedented and long-lasting challenges to the environment. As a result of Russian aggression, in terms of the degree of contamination of the territory with explosive devices, Ukraine is now perhaps the most dangerous place on the planet. As of early March 2023, the National Police of Ukraine considers a third of territory of Ukraine to be mined. The number of mined territories includes both the occupied lands and those where Russian territories are still located. According to Mines Advisory Group, Ukraine is currently the most mined territory in the world, ahead of the previous leaders Afghanistan and Syria. The total area of mined territories in Ukraine is approximately 180,000 square kilometers. If we draw an analogy with other countries, this is half the area of Germany, or third of the area of France, or 8 Israel, or almost 6 Belgium, or 4 Estonia. The most mined territory in Ukraine today is considered to be the Kherson region, when fleeing the occupied left of incredible number of mines of all types on the right bank, and now they are intensively mining the left bank. Along with the victims directly caused by firearms, there are all those who suffer from the indirect effects of war. Refugees escaping the war, increases in malnutrition, mortality rates, and the collapse of institutions and all related services from security to education and health. There are environmental consequences ranging from pollution due to materials contained in weaponry to the abandonment of sites that become themselves dangerous. The previous presentation demonstrates these pollutions. However, these indirect consequences often cause more deaths in the long run than the war itself. and it is the climatic and environmental effects of any conflict that impact receiving less attention of governments and people. High-intensity conflicts require and consume vast quantities of fuel, leading to massive carbon emissions and contributing to climate change. Climate change affects food availability, quality, and diversity, exacerbating food and nutrition crises. Temperature and precipitation changes enhance the spread of vector-borne diseases. Without preventive action, deaths from such diseases, currently over 700,000 annually, may rise. Climate change induces both immediate mental health issues like anxiety and post-traumatic stress and long-term disorders due to factors like displacement and disrupted social cohesion. Recent research attributes 37% of heart-related deaths to human-induced climate change. Heart-related deaths among those over 65 have risen by 70% in 2 decades. Large-scale vehicle movements can lead to widespread physical damage to sensitive landscape and geodiversity, as can the intensive use of explosive ordnance. The use of explosive weapons in urban areas creates vast quantities of debris and rubble, which can cause air and soil pollution. It impacts for people's health. For example, in Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan, where conflicts have been going on since 1978, almost 3,000 people died in 2018 from diseases attributable to air pollution. That's more victims than the war provoked in the same year. Pollution can also be caused by damage to light industry and environmentally sensitive infrastructure, such as water treatment plants. The loss of energy supplies can have reverberating effects that are detrimental to the environment, shutting down treatment plants or pumping systems, or can lead to the use of more polluting fuels or domestic generators. Severe pollution incidents can be caused when industrial oil or energy facilities are deliberately attacked, inadvertently damaged or disrupted. In some cases, deliberate attacks on oil or industrial facilities are used as a weapon of war to pollute large areas and spread terror. Other scourges techniques include the destruction of agricultural infrastructure like canals, wells, and pumps, and burning of crops. Tactics like this created food security and livelihoods, increasing the vulnerability of rural communities. Whether unintended or deliberate, these large-scale pollution incidents can lead to transboundary impacts from air pollution or through the contamination of river aquifers or the sea. In some instances, this event has the potential to affect weather or the global climate. Russian shelling of critical infrastructure in Ukraine resulted in the destruction of the water treatment and water supply system, which led to serious problems in the country's environment and, as a result, to a humanitarian catastrophe in a number of regions. Contaminated water and poor sanitation are linking to transmission of disease such as cholera, diarrhea, dysentery, hepatitis A, typhoid, and polio. Absent, inadequate, or inappropriately managed water and sanitation services expose individuals to preventable health risk. This is particularly the case in healthcare facilities where both patients and staff are placed in additional risk of infection and disease when water, sanitation, and hygiene services are lacking. I want to emphasize another very important aspect of ecocide, the decline in biodiversity and the associated increase in diseases. Ukraine has a high diversity of habitats and species. It is part of a broader region stretching across Central and Eastern Europe, sometimes referred to as the Green Heart of Europe. This includes rare steppe ecosystems, coastal wetlands, alpine meadows, ancient beech forests, and extensive peatlands. The country shared a part of the Dunai Delta, the second largest river delta of continental Europe, and the largest reed bed in the world. It includes West pine, oak, and birch forests and peat bogs in the Polessia region of northern Ukraine. The Carpathian Mountains is the western part of the country, a home to ancient beech forests and alpine meadows. Importantly, rare steppe ecosystems survive in the central and eastern part of Ukraine. The territory of Ukraine contains habitats that are home to 35% of Europe's biodiversity, including 70,000 plants and animal species, many of them rare, relict, and endemic. They include European bison and brown bears, lynx, and wolves, as well as strangers, the world's most threatened group of species. This could unfortunately be destroyed during the war. 16% of Ukraine's land area is covered by forest. Explosions from the artillery will likely cause fires in the forest, which have already burned 20,000 hectares of Lugansk region in 2020 and one to shielding in the Nikolaev region, Kinburg split, 11,000 hectares of relict forest burned down. It will take 100 years to restore these relict forests on Kinburg's spit. Several studies suggest that with the loss of biodiversity, the transmission of disease increases. Thus, biodiversity loss causes the loss of an important ecosystem service, buffering the spreading of infection diseases to humans, animals, and plants. We depend on biodiversity and healthy ecosystems for our health and survival. Biodiversity and the complexity of our landscapes and seascapes is integral to social and ecological resilience, including the resilience of ecosystem functions and the service that they sustain. As genetic and species diversity is lost and ecosystems are degraded, the complexity of the overall system can be compromised, making it more vulnerable and potentially creating new opportunities for disease emergency and poor health outcomes both in human and species. You can see schematic representation of the link between biodiversity and the ecology of infection diseases. Diseases results from the complex interaction between the three components corresponding to pathogens, hosts, and vectors in the case of vector-borne diseases. The biodiversity of these three compartments can be considered at the community level, each circle corresponding to a species, or at the
intraspecific level, each circle corresponding to a population or an individual within a population. The gray shading of each unit considered species, population, or individual illustrates its genetic or phenotypic variability in space and time, while variation in size illustrates frequency or density differences within the ecosystem. Interaction within each compartment can be direct competition or indirect, apparent competition, synergic or antagonistic. This infographic from the World Health Organization NCBD-led State of Knowledge Review provides a visual representation of some of the interconnection between biodiversity and health. And we know that now we have risk declining of biodiversity in Ukraine during the war. Stress environmental conditions can significantly alter disease pattern of emerging and re-emerging infection diseases and compromise the resilience of the system as a whole. Most emerging infection diseases, whether in wildlife, domestic animals, plants, or people, are driven by human activities such as agricultural intensification and human-induced landscape changes interacting in a co-evolutionary process and with other drivers, and among them war and famine. Some of the primary drivers of emerging infection diseases you can see on this slide. The problem of increasing epidemiological risks caused by war and ecocide is very large and deep. Unfortunately, I could not dwell in all aspects of this problem, but I think that the facts make us think about the consequences of war and ecocide for human, animal, and plant health. In conclusion, it is clear that wars never bring good things. It only brings a huge amount of death, broken dreams, destroyed cities and nature. And it also brings a huge impact on the global climate crisis a lot of people are talking about right now. The war leads to potentially undrinkable water, soil where humans used to grow plants, unsafe to use, air full of toxic gases and particles, decline biodiversity, and the increased epidemic threats. Yet beyond that, the most immediate need was to be stopped because it is taking us, humans, and our environment to a deadly destruction. Thank you for attention.